Hey everybody, it's me, Angela Walters, and welcome to my weekly live chat. I'm super excited to hang out with you for the next 30 minutes talking about quilting and answering your questions live, and I'm so glad you're here. I hope you're having a great Thursday and that your fall is as beautiful weather as it is here. As always, I have Jessica behind the camera monitoring the live chat, so if you have a question, be sure to type it in there and I'll try to get to it at the end. And in today's live chat, I'm going to be answering questions from some previous videos. So there's been comments on the videos. I thought, oh, make this like a Q&A kind of thing and recap the season's greetings thing. So kind of fun to revisit that. So first of all, let's talk about where these questions are coming from. They're coming from our season's greetings video series. So we're kind of like right about 3/4 of the way through this. It started at the beginning of November where we quilted a panel and then we cut it up and we quilted another panel and now we're getting ready to cut it up again. And it was a lot of fun. This is the first time I've done something kind of like this. Normally my videos are all machine quilting or piecing, but this is kind of mixing it up a little bit. So a little bit of quilting, a little bit of creating, and it was a lot of fun to make the videos. So even I was kind of joking before that last month when I was filming, it was like Christmas in my head. So in my head, it could be January right now, I'm not even sure. But the first video, we quilted the bigger panel. So this was the about yard 36 by 42-ish fabric, and we learned some different ways to quilt the panel, and that was a lot of fun because I got to talk about kind of, you know, how do we work around applique? I mean, even though it's not really applique, but we can pretend, right? Because I mean, if I'm gonna pretend, it's gonna be something cool. And so it was just really fun kind of talking about quilting holiday motifs and different ways to quilt it. And if you haven't seen the videos, they're on my YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. There's also a link in the description box that will take you to all the information about the series. And really just kind of spending time quilting and playing with thread colors and really just, I don't know, having fun, relaxing. I was kind of pretending that you all were with me and we were just quilting this Christmas panel together. I don't know if that's what you were pretending when you watched, hopefully so, but we had a great time if you didn't know that. Anyway, so throughout the video, we just kind of saw some different styles of quilting and had fun. And really that video was to prepare us for the next one where we turned it into projects. And this was the funny part. I wasn't sure how quilters would take this, or viewers, because I'm like, okay, quilt this thing, now let's cut it up into pieces. And even during the typing chat before I went live, people were like, I can't cut my panel. Well, you definitely don't have to. You can leave it whole, of course. But I thought, you know what, let's cut into it and, you know, make some different things out of it. So we made some placemats and some zipper pouches, and you can see one of them right here. One of the reasons I think I kind of wanted to try cutting it up is, let's say you were quilting the panel and there was part of it you didn't love, right? You started at the top and you got better as you went down. You could creatively cut out your favorite pieces and the rest can just kind of disappear. Or maybe you have enough wall hangings and you want to turn these into some projects that you can use in different ways. But of course, you definitely don't have to cut them up. But in the second video, I made like a little wall hanging where I taught how to bind. That's kind of what we did with the placemat. And one joke I wanted to make in the video so badly was, why are you listening to me on how to bind? Because I'm not the best at it, but I kind of want to be funny and be like, you know, like, okay, I can do this. I can do hard things because I am an adult. And that's probably the last thing I'll bind for a year. I usually bind one thing a year because I got to keep, you know, my skills going. So we saw how to bind the placemats and bind the Merry Christmas sign and put little buttons for an ornament display on it. And then also a zipper pouch, which I love zipper pouches. They're so great. I mean, they work for everybody. You can hold all sorts of stuff in it. The one we made in the video is not big enough for a wine bottle, but it could be done if you do it right. And so I kind of talked about how to do that, sewing the zipper. Probably one of my favorite moments from that video is when the needle broke when I was quilting, and then had to get a screenshot of my face right there. When I'm filming these, I'm just kind of doing my thing, going through it like I normally would, and then I kind of edit it on down to make it, you know, less than 5 hours. And sure enough, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take my time, no problem. And that freaking needle broke. And I about peed my pants. I didn't, don't worry, but I about did. The thing that's funny about that is it actually happened to me 2 times. On the other side, not on the zipper, but before, I was like, oh my gosh. So I cut the second one out because I'm like, breaking a needle once is funny, twice is just sad. But it just kind of goes to show you never know what really happens, you know, beyond the edit. So I definitely had to leave at least one of those in, because who hasn't been quilting or sewing along and your needle breaks? Just, you know, it's like a rite of passage. So, and then we saw again the little wall hanging stuff. So just a lot of fun in that video. And then with the next video, we talked about how to quilt a pillow panel. So a smaller option. my thought was, maybe if somebody was like, I don't like machine quilting, but I think Angela's trying to get me to drink the Kool-Aid. It's a little bit of a smaller option, or some people did both. But in this one, we talked about some different quilting techniques as well. So we talked about how to use a stencil. Great way to practice machine quilting. And I said that in the video, but I could have said it about 20 more times. Learning how to machine quilt is like learning how to drive a car. And learning how to do a design is like learning how to navigate a city. So when you're sitting at your machine trying to learn a new design and machine quilting at the same time, it's like trying to learn how to drive your car and navigate a city at the same time, and that's a lot. So give yourself something to follow, whether it's a stencil, marked lines, some detail on the fabric that you can quilt around, all great options, because it just kind of takes a little bit of the question away for you, like where to go. So we saw how to use the stencil, kind of like a different option here. And I thought, let's also talk about an unstenciled option. And we did some wavy lines with holiday themed designs like holly leaves and little starbursts. Holly leaves are one of those designs that I quilt very rarely because I don't quilt a whole lot of Christmas quilts, but when you need it, it's like perfect. It's kind of there waiting for you. And I love the sample because I kind of threw in different thread colors as I was quilting. And I think it's kind of a fun way just to have a good time with it. So we saw how to quilt them so that they radiate from the center. But for those that didn't want to try doing that, just wanted to do edge to edge, I showed how you can just do them in rows. So a lot of fun in that video too. In fact, you could probably tell because all the videos were kind of long. So people have commented, I love watching your videos. I could watch them forever. I'm like, well, let's see if they can watch them for 20 minutes. So hopefully it wasn't too crazy. So there we can see another option. So we just, having fun with it. I almost got the eggnog out, but I didn't. And then the next video, which isn't out yet, it'll be out next week, next Tuesday coming up, I'm making stockings and pillows. So a lot of fun with that too. So I really enjoyed it. Now I gotta tell you, my house looks amazing because I have all the things right where I need it. So that's the video series I'm talking about. But in the videos, there were questions. And so I'm going to talk through the questions that that Anna gathered for me. But if you're watching live and you have a question, even if it's not related to Season's Greetings, I'll definitely answer it. So let's go into the questions first of all. So how long did it take to quilt? Did I do it all in one sitting? It took me about 20 minutes, right? Isn't that what the video showed? No, through the magic of editing, it's much, much shorter. I don't remember exactly how long it took me to quilt the panel. I would quilt some, film me quilting some and then pause and then come back to it later. So I don't know, a few hours. It's really hard to tell because I'm stopping and filming so much, but it definitely took longer than what it looks like in there. And I think what's great about quilting is, it kind of expands to the amount of time you have. If you're making a last minute quilt, you're like, well, this is going to get an all over kind of design. But sometimes when you have a little bit more time, you kind of make it more intense. So kind of fun. I wish I had a better track of that, but that's what I got for you. All right, is there a PDF with quilt designs diagrams available? No, there's not. So this was meant to be just a smaller, less teachy version, and so there is not any quilting diagrams. If I ever do this again, I probably will put together some kind of quilting diagrams because I did get a lot of questions about that. The idea was, you can do whatever you want, but I know sometimes having those diagrams handy are really helpful. I usually do those for the Free Motion Challenge Quilting Along, and they take about as long as filming and editing because they're so detailed, but great resource. So for previous videos, you can check out my diagrams, and going forward, if I do something like this, I'll definitely put together those for you. Okay, do I feel the ruler foot is the best foot for free motion quilting? It depends. It is the best foot for free motion quilting for me because I love quilting with rulers and I just leave that foot on all the time. And you can definitely see that in this video series, even though we didn't use rulers. I like the ruler foot because it's round and the spacing between the needle and the edge of the foot is the same all the way around. So if I'm doing echoing, something like that, it's going to be easy to gauge my distance. There are other feet that are great, kind of oval feet. But again, I like the consistent spacing. So I just leave my ruler foot on all the time. But if you don't like ruler quilting or you have a different foot that you love, then that's whatever one you love is the best one for you to use. But my ruler foot is on all the time. What kind of batting am I using? So it depends. On my sewing machine, I like to use fusible batting because it helps hold the layers together. On my long arm, I use Quilter's Dream Poly. So fusible just has a little bit of that, fusible on one side of it that helps hold the layers together. But this kind of leads me right into the next question. Doesn't fusible batting only have the fuse on one side? How do I keep the other side from slipping off? So This is all a preference. There are double-sided fusible battings on the market. I find that they're a little too sticky. So I like the Quilter's Dream fusible batting, just one side. The other side tends to stick, which is kind of like static electricity. Batting kind of just, if you've ever laid out your quilt sandwich, I don't know, it just kind of sits there. So I just use a fusible side on the quilt top because that's the most important part, and the rest kind of sticks together. If you're worried about that, you can always drop a few pins in there to kind of hold the layers together, but I've not really noticed a problem with it. Now, that's not to say there's not times that I don't get tucks on the back or whatever. I just call that ruching or textured quilting or whatever and move on. But I've had no problem with the one-sided. But again, it's totally a personal preference, so whatever you want to do. Which model of the Handy Quilter sewing machines do I use for the demos? So that is a Handy Quilter Stitch 610. So it is kind of like your midline model. I love it. I do piecing on it, obviously, and quilting. It has a lot of decorative stitches that I don't really use because I'm usually a straight stitch or quilter, but I definitely love, and especially the throat space is really nice. There was a lot of questions about bobbins. So I know it's always a question I get asked, you know, what bobbin color, especially with this video series. We had a coordinating thread kit, which I normally do with my videos if we're working on a project together. And so first of all, this is just my preference, right? If you ask 10 quilters how to do something, you'll get 10 different answers. Well, you might get 12 different answers, honestly. But I like to use pre-wound bobbins. So I used the same dark gray on the whole quilt in the bobbin, just because the thread colors were pretty dark too. So that's what I went with. I love not having to wind my bobbins. And now that I'm spoiled, like I don't want to wind them for my machine, my sewing machine, my long arm, or even my featherweight. I have featherweight pre-wounds. So be careful if you start going down that road, because the next thing you know, you might be addicted to all the pre-wounds. If I wasn't using pre-wounds, I would probably wind bobbins that match the thread on top. But that's what I did before. But that's what works for me. All right, how about the needle size? What needle size am I using with the thread pack? So with the needle size you use is dependent on the size of the thread you're using. And so 40 weight thread works great with an 80 needle. So that's what I use. Sometimes if I can't find one, a 90 will work. But usually most thread manufacturers will tell you what size needle you should use with the thread. It's really important because if you aren't using the right size needle, you're gonna get shredding thread breakage. And even if it's too big, sometimes you'll get sloppy stitches with it. So I love the titanium coated needles because they're nice and strong, especially when we're learning how to machine quilt. And in my upcoming video series, when we talk about machine quilting with rulers, definitely having some stronger needles helps it handle all the stress you're putting in, going in all different directions. How do I hang my wall hangings? Now there's two sides of this. How do I hang them, or how do I say you should hang them, right? So normally a good option would be facing. So this is a panel that we did in our last free motion challenge. And facing just means I have these little kind of pouches right here that hold, and so a dowel rod will fit in there and then like a command hook. I did a video on it, so you can kind of check my YouTube channel if you want to see that. How I usually hang up wall hangings is with a thumbtack. I'll put it right in the corner, right below the batting, so like kind of right here, right through the quilt where you can't see it, and just thumbtack it up. Drives my husband crazy because now I have holes in the wall, but you know, it's just really easy. It's probably not the best for the quilt, but you know. Another option, I love the command strips and then clips, like little circles with a little clip on it. It's also a great option. So whatever it takes. I thought this was a great question. How can I get better at tracing and echoing shapes? Been doing it for 3 years and really struggle with that skill. So part of the problem, and we did a lot of this in this video series, so I thought that's such a great question. Part of the problem with tracing and echoing is you're trying to recreate a shape. You're trying to recreate a shape, especially on this panel, that was not necessarily pieced, right? This is like a curvy kind of shape, and so echoing it is a little tricky. Here, a couple things I would say about that. Look ahead of the needle, where you're going instead of where you're at. It's going to let you see what's coming up and let you begin to make that adjustment. It's not so much a like, oh, conscious thought, like, oh, it is going to the left. I should be going to the left. But it's important to know what's coming up so you can, you know, start to accomplish that. Another thing, focus on smooth. I don't care if the spacing gets closer or further apart, as long as the lines are smooth. And if they're smooth, they'll look perfect. And I know you can't really see it really, really well, but if you were to get really close to my quilting, you could tell that some of the echo lines are closer and some are further apart, but the line is smooth, and that's what makes it look fine. So try to let go of any perfectionistic tendencies. Easy for me to say, right? But focus on being smooth. And then again, give yourself some credit or, some grace with it, because you're looking at something, I'm going to say perfect, that design on the panel. It's not going to be perfect, but get it as close as you can and move on. Usually with quilters, and I can't, speak to every single person out there, but usually it is the perfectionistic type person that is quilting very, very slow and trying so hard to be perfect that struggles with that. So try maybe quilting a little faster if you find you're on the slower side, and focus on smooth, and I promise it will look good. Especially if you do the panel and you echo around all that a couple times, you will have plenty of practice as you go through that. All right, and then the last question, talking about handy quilter long arms and the pros and cons of a frame versus sit-down quilting. So if you have watched my live chats for any amount of time, you probably know that I went right from hand quilting to long arming, and then taught myself how to machine quilt on sewing machines later. So kind of went right into it, and we got a frame, a stand-up machine. We didn't know any better. Thank goodness I got what worked really great for me. The sit-down quilting is great. Quilting at a sit-down machine, whether it's a sit-down long arm or your sewing machine, there's some benefits to that. You don't have to stand on your feet. You can start anywhere on the quilt that you want to start. You don't have to start at the top and work your way down. And you can also change the orientation of your quilt as you're quilting. So we're going to see this in the ruler series coming up. Like, if you struggle quilting with rulers on one way, being able to whip your quilt around is really nice, and you cannot do that on a long arm. Now, one of the benefits of a frame situation where you're standing up is you don't have to make your quilt sandwich. I would say that's like the number one hallelujah right there. I'm not very patient when it comes to making my quilt sandwiches. So that's one of the benefits. You can quilt really fast on a stand-up long arm. Now, some quilters find that overwhelming or a little scary because it's too easy to move. But after a little bit of practice, it gets more comfortable. But one of the cons of the frame is that it takes up a lot of space and it costs a lot of money. So you have to have space and finances to justify that, and everybody's totally different. But it really depends on your situation. If you love machine quilting and you want to do it and you struggle with the sewing machine, the stand-up long arm might be great. But I've seen plenty of award-winning quilting come from a sewing machine. So it's not always the tool that we're using, it's the practice that we're putting in. So that being said, I do love long arms. I love handy quilter long arms. And like I said, long arming is my first language, and it's really fun. So if you're ever thinking about it, you should take a class, try them out and see what you think about it, because it is, like I said, a lot of fun. All right, so those are the questions I had kind of saved up, but there was a good question that came through in the typed chat. I'm going to answer that before I get to any questions you typed in there. So Tammy said, do I ever get burnt out? And because she's burned out and she can't get back to quilting, and it's just kind of frustrating. There's two types of burnouts. There is creative burnout, where you're doing something a lot and you're just like creatively drained. There's other life burnout, right? Where your life is busy, it's hectic, it's something sad has happened. That second type of burnout, you just have to give yourself grace. You will come back to it when you're mentally ready, right? When you have the time and the wherewithal to do that. But the first kind is something I have dealt with a lot throughout the years. I mean, having been doing this as a business in one way or another for 20 some years, I've definitely had burnout. My husband would tell you that as well. He knows it's coming because I'm usually crying at night. I'm like, I hate this, I quit. I usually quit about once a month. Jessica talks me down sometimes, and then Jeremy also does. But I think when you do any kind of creative outlet, sometimes it's going to happen where you get a little burnt out. And so I don't know to speak to every person, but I'll say what helps me when I'm creatively burnt out. First of all, it usually happens after a big event, a big push. And I used to think that kind of letdown was burnout. Like, let's say I've just finished the challenge. Oh my God, I got the last video uploaded. It's a celebration. I'm like, oh, it's done. And then your body you start to recover from that. And you've been so, pushing towards this goal. And then, so that little bit of letdown I used to feel was burnout. It's not. It's just the normal ebb and flow. I put a lot of work in, and now I need to give my body some time and my brain some time to relax. It's when we keep pushing ourselves that I think that's when the burnout happens. But sometimes I'm also like, I don't know what to do. Nothing's coming. It's not easy. So a couple things that help me. First of all, I take a break, even if I'm really busy. I remember, when I would quilt for Quilt Market, twice a year, I'd be quilting 50 some quilts within a span of really short amount of time. And so if I needed to, I would give myself a day or two off, even though I really couldn't afford it, but I knew that pushing myself was not gonna be helpful. So I would say, okay, you get 2 days off, Angela, and then you gotta get back to that. Now, I know it's different because it's business, but I'm sure you have a lot of projects backlogged that you feel like you need to do. So give yourself a break. Second, I start cleaning my quilting room. That usually will fix it. Get my quilting room kind of cleaned up a little bit. I usually find something I forgot I started. I'm like, ooh, I like to do that. I find a UFO. But if nothing else, I can at least go in my room without feeling like, oh, it's kind of dirty. Now, that's a lot for me because I'm not a naturally organized, clean person. So that definitely helps me out too. Another thing is hang out with other quilters. I know that's not, applicable for everybody, but when I can, I go to a little sewing retreat with some of my friends and just kind of hang out around quilting in a less stressful manner. But I think, and there's other things too, and maybe this might be its own live chat topic, but I think the most important thing is just to not freak out. It'll come back, right? You love quilting, it will come back. You just need to give yourself a break and be, revitalized in another way. So I remember used to think like, I'm never gonna love quilting again. But then I do, right? Or I'm never going to be able to design another block of the month ever again, but I do. So it will come back. That creativity kind of just needs to recharge. It's kind of how I think about that. I would love to hear your comments or your thoughts on that. So leave a comment, like if you have something that works for you, because I definitely know that everybody's different. But do we have any questions from the chat? I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all hanging out with me. I don't take it, for granted that you would spend your day with me. So I appreciate you here. Lots of nice questions. How did I get rid of the nested or bunched? Oh, how do you get rid of the nested or bunched up thread on the back of a quilt? Thread nest. Usually I just take it out and restitch over it. So, but if I see like one, but if there's several, there's a problem that needs to be fixed. So I'll kind of, if I had to fix, it's already been quilted, it's already whatever, I'll take that little bit of quilting out and then just stitch over it to help secure it. Thread nests are the trickiest thing because I feel like they're kind of harder to fix, but not fun. Will my videos show you how to make a pillow? Yes, so the video on Tuesday will show you how to make a pillow. And it was really kind of sweet. I should have said this. The very first thing I learned how to sew was a pillow before I even learned how to quilt. So my mother-in-law showed me how to make one. I was like, do you think I could make a pillow? She's like, yeah. And I mean, to me, I was super proud that I made it. So yes, I'll show you how to make a pillow. It is so easy when you see it. You'll be making pillows for all the things. Lately, my glide thread has been shredding. Do you know why I have this problem when I've never had it before? Okay, so there's a lot of questions. So when you're having a thread issue, are you on a Longarm or a sewing machine? Kind of the causes could be a little different. Why it's happening and it never has happened before, maybe your needle is dull, maybe it's bent a little bit, so you can switch your needle out. Check your thread path, make sure that it's threaded correctly. If you are using a smaller needle, you could try going up to a slightly larger needle. Maybe that might help. Or if you're doing a design that you're not comfortable with. So maybe you always meander and it's fine, but now you're doing leaves and it's shredding. It could just be that you're not moving smoothly throughout that process. The problem with thread issues is it's like a 99% chance it's a small issue, but it's a possibility of 100 issues. So it's really hard to diagnose. So what I would do is just start switching things out. Put another quilt sandwich in and see, does that cause shredding thread? Try quilting a different design. How is that working for you? And see if that kind of helps. I wish I could give you a number one answer that would definitely help, but there's too many variables. What brand of pre-wounds do I use? So they're all from Dash, which is a company that has glide thread. So I use glide pre-wounds for the Longarm, and then it's like a 60-weight glide. So they're the Magna Glide Classics. And then for the sewing machine, I can't remember what they're called, but we have them on our online store. It's just regular sewing thread from Dash. I will try to look that up and put that in the comments. All right, when using Quilter's Dream, what density do I like for my long arm quilting? Do I ever have trouble with bearding? All right, I quilt my things to death, and then I put more quilting on them. I love a lot of quilting. I just love how it looks. Never had a problem with that. Quilter's Dream, quality batting, perfect for it. As long as you're using a good quality batting, you will not have trouble with bearding because it's not going to come through your fabric. But I do have quilts around my house that were pieced back in my vintage quilting days with cheap batting, and they are bearding. So the little strands make their way through the quilt top. I actually love pulling them out. It's very satisfying, but I've joked on here before, soon I won't have any batting in those quilts. So, but with good quality batting, you should not see a bearding issue. What color do I suggest for the bobbin? Red to go with the backing, ? Sure, I think that would look awesome, especially if you're using red on the top. That backing fabric that came with the panel is pretty busy, so you're not going to see the quilting either way, the quilting on the back either way. So red would be great. Red or gray, either one, totally fine. So what is the best needle tension to set when quilting on a sewing machine? Are there variables to consider? So the tension on your machine, on a sewing machine, is a little bit different than the tension on a long arm. I don't adjust the tension on my sewing machine hardly at all, because when the machine's not moving, there's not a whole lot of things to adjust. So when you do get it set to where it is, you don't necessarily have to move it around a lot. The variables to consider are this: am I switching out the bobbin? Do I need to adjust my bobbin tension as well? Some sewing machines let you have that ability, some don't. If you don't, then you don't have to worry about that. So all your adjustments will be on the top. It's different for every machine, so I can't give you a set answer for this. But what I would say is you'll know you have great tension when you have a well-defined stitch that almost looks like it has a little hole on either side of it. If it starts to look like a line, that means my bobbin thread is kind of pulling up. And so if I see there's an error, I'm going to start making adjustments on your machine and adjust, test until it falls into place, and then leave it there, and unless you change your weights of thread. But there's not like a set number that's universal for everybody. And that's probably one of the most frustrating things about machine quilting. Not only are you struggling, to learn a new design, you're like, trying to remember how to breathe, and then your thread is shredding or breaking or your tension is off. But it's all a learning curve, and I promise once you kind of get over that hill, like it's easy going. So if I wasn't able to get to your questions, or you're not watching live, leave them in the comments. I like to get on there from time to time and answer them. Plus, other quilters are really great about sharing their opinions and tips and stuff, which I love about quilters. You ask any quilter, they'll tell you anything you want to know. So I think that's super fun. I won't be here next week because it's Thanksgiving, but I will be back the week after. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite things I'm thankful for, kind of, peeking back over the past couple years, kind of almost like a little bit of a trunk show, but more like, I'm so glad this thing happened. So I'm excited for that. Until then, everybody, I hope that you're staying safe, you're doing well wherever you are. Have a great couple weeks, and I'll be back soon with that live chat. Until then, everybody, happy quilting.